Yeah, no, I'm stuck like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yo, like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yeah, no, I'm stuck like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a touchdown. Yo, like I'm touchdown. I can do my dance like a 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 touchdown.
Oh yes, drum and bass in your face. That is so funny, that song. That reminds me, it's called Keep Crashing. Anyway, welcome to Saturday Night Live in your face, all about quads, FPV and all that funky stuff. I mean, I was listening to that tune and I got my own little baby here. My little Cinebup that I absolutely love. I was hoping to put a battery in it to get some lights going, but you know, I was pretending I was doing the flips and flops and bits and pieces, but I can't. I'm useless. I'm crap. So, but we got a couple of people who's going to chat to us that was from the club, one of the clubs I belong to, Deborah and David, and they, to me, they are brilliant pilots. They fly quads like fantastic. I know David's got his own channel. We'll find out if Deborah has, I'm not sure, but you can see what he does. It's absolutely fantastic. They're very humble. They just call themselves, oh, hi Shadow, by the way. Hi, and hi Financial Daily News. Oh, hey, welcome. Anybody is welcome. But yeah, hi. Where was I? Oh yes. So I think they're brilliant. They think they're very humble and they're just quad pilots. So they are Quadaholics. They are at the field when they can fly. Obviously super lockdown at the moment. When they can fly, and they fly every night. And I forgot actually the name of what David calls it. It's sunset something. We'll have to ask him when he comes on in a moment. So we're trying a new thing on a Saturday Night Live. At the moment, we're doing the Quadaholics, which means we're going to basically, David has printed off a quad. He's going to show you all the parts. All the parts for this quad we're going to build. Well, not me, but David's going to build. I'm just going to watch. Poke questions at him. Don't forget, ask questions. Why are you using this? Deborah's there. She's going to fire questions at him and everything else. But it's all the parts are in the description of this video. So we're going to do this bi-weekly, so every other week. And I think today we're going to be looking at all the parts you're going to need to build this wonderful drone, or should I say quadcopter or quad, whatever you like to call it. The second time we're actually going to build it, and then third, and depending on how long it takes, you know, we're going to get the software going, and you know, sort of picturing it and all that sort of wonderful stuff that just flies over my head. And probably this is why I kept crashing. So hi Terry, how you doing? No quizzes tonight. No quizzes tonight. This is just a new show. It's only when I think the next quiz we're going to do. We could do quizzes, shouldn't we? I'm in the middle of setting up a Patreon. It's only about 10 grand a month. Not a lot of money at all, really. I wish. It's a couple of quid, I think, about £1.50 a month or something. But yeah, and it all gets invited to a Discord server, and you know, then we'll do our special giveaways for the Discord people as well, until we get to that hopefully 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm edging at 538 or something. So let's get 1,000, and then we'll have another fabulous giveaway, and we'll get another special guest on to help us do that giveaway. Right. So anybody in the room? So we've said who we got. I'm going to say your name wrong. Grumpy's. William, hi, how you doing? Shadow, how you doing? We'll put all your questions up, and Beta Flight, yes, Shadow, thank you very much. See, Shadow should join us with this show because he's more technical than I am. He's an ex-military drone pilot. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Shh, don't tell anyone, you never know. But yeah, he knows all the stuff as well, so maybe we'll get him involved as well. You know, he's across the pond, which I think is midday on a Saturday, I think, around that about time. But there's a lot of fancy people that know everything about quads, drones, whatever you like to call them, except me. Yes, I built this puppy. You saw me on this one, and I fell in love with her. And David even built me this. He does a lot of 3D printing, which you'll see, to hold my Osmo Action. And some lovely, what's that? The A is missing. What's the A? Grumpy was. I'm just going to call you Grumpy. I like your style. Right, with no further ado, I'm just going to check that I can get these up. Here we go. The A is missing. We can get these up. I will move you about as we go. Don't worry about it. So there you go, Grumpy. I love it. Absolutely love it. Right, with further ado, we're going to go to our guests. So I'd like to welcome David and Deborah, the Quadaholics. Oh, I've got David upside down.
Hanging out in the,
he's always that sort of upside down kind of guy. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi Chris.
Hi, how you doing? As you can see, David and Deborah here, so it's not difficult. Yeah, so Grumpy, it's always difficult with me. Hi Jason, we're just looking at some people coming in and saying hi. So David, so this evening, so you and Deborah, I've been seeing on like our little messenger chat. You've been sort of 3D printing and bits and pieces of the actual quad as well. So, and that's going to be available. So if people do want to, if people do want to build this quad, which you should do, then if you want the 3D files or even the 3D printed parts, and then further down the show, we'll tell you how to get those and speak to David. So, I mean, guys, you know, the world is your oyster. Australian. It's not Australian. What's that? I'm reading these as well. Australian. What's that? Grumpy's Australian. Hello from Australia. Oh. Smash the like button.
To my friend Dennis.
Bless you.
In Queensland this morning.
There we go. Look, they're all welcome to the show. Yes, they are lovely people, Shadow. They really are. They really are. So, I mean, did you want to tell? I mean, so if we start from Deborah, I mean, you know, sort of, how did you get into quads? Because I know you're down with the field with David all the time, sort of every night. I think there's about 3 or 4 of you. So, what made you go for? Because you did do fixed wing, didn't you?
A long time ago, I used to do a little bit of fixed wing. I gave that up fairly quickly, and then I always had this sort of idea that I would do some experiments with some rotary craft when I reached a sort of an age where I had some spare time. And I didn't even really know much about quadcopters actually. It was only when I started to have a look around YouTube, I found various people, pilots, doing these amazing freestyle FPV sort of videos. And after a while, after watching that for about 6 months, I thought, you know what, I'm going to get one of those quads and see how much fun it is, how easy it is. And initially, it's a big steep learning curve. But I had a few sort of goes around the field, and rapidly realised that actually, you need quite a lot of space for these things. They're quite dangerous when they're whizzing about when you're learning. So then I looked to join our local club, and that's where I met Dave and yourself, Chris. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Brilliant. So and obviously you don't see your back wall now, but Deborah has got a plethora of quads all on her wall, which is, and she even made a quad the other day. Have you got that in view? Is that in hand view? Oh, we're losing Deborah a bit. The gremlins are there. There we go. Look at this wonderful copter now. Now Deborah 3D printed this and built it from scratch. It's awesome.
Yeah, I printed the green bits, which is like the battery pad, and there's a little electronics housing in the top that I printed. But that's a driblet. It's okay. It's all
I like
it.
It
best.
It doesn't matter. I think it's cute. But okay, David. So over to you. So what are we expecting now? We're going to be doing this. Hello, sir. We're going to be welcome to the show, the Saturday Night Live show. So over the course of the coming weeks, we're going to do it bi-weekly because we're all busy people. What are we going to be looking at like from today?
Yeah, so we thought probably the easiest way to talk about quads was to take a quad kit and show you how it goes together. There are a lot of really excellent channels on YouTube that you can go and watch if you really want to get into it, but really this was an introduction for your members of your channel. So we thought we'd take a quad, we'd take the sort of parts that we would normally put on that quad to make it a really good flying quad, and we'd go through a build. And at the same time as going through the build, we could take questions and we could talk about our opinions on the parts. And I just want to stress again, we're by no means we're experts. We're what we call enthusiastic amateurs.
Quadaholics.
Prove that. Quadaholics. Yeah, we're absolutely addicted to quads, and we crash very regularly. So we know that where our place is in the world, right? So, but we were hoping that we could help certainly get people interested in this amazing hobby. For me, I used to fly helicopters, turbine helicopters as well. Got I think some. It's getting me dizzy now. That's very good. I used to fly turbine helicopters, 2-meter rotor heads, and very expensive. When you crash them, it costs a lot of money to put it back together. And I think the thing for me, I got into quads about, I guess, 2014. So that's 6 years ago. Just about as Rotor Riot was forming, and it was an amazing thing. For me, it was going digital. So I'd been analog. And the great thing about a quad is it really shouldn't fly. There are no real aerodynamic surfaces other than the propellers, and everything that all the commands that you put in, which is like a normal plane or a helicopter, are digitized into movement. So it's just one of the most amazing things that I've ever done in any hobby. And in fact, it's almost to a stage now where I have withdrawal symptoms if I don't fly. So
well, you're there every night, aren't you? Which is brilliant. As I say, practice makes perfect. JB. He crashes a lot. I think I saw a video today that he crashed. So I don't think you're a great pilot until you crash.
No, and I think you have to earn your stripes very much. So and that does mean that you will lose a number of quads along the way, and you'll break a number of quads along the way. And I think I've landed one in a lake that a diver managed to rescue, actually. I had one in a tree for a number of months that then eventually blew out, and the farmer put it back on our table. I had one in the mole field, which is the back field from our main field, and that was there for 8 months until it was found. And then I had one go through a combine harvester because it got lost in a cornfield.
That's
and
epic.
The combine harvester chomped it up. Yeah, that was really sad. I did keep the bits for about a couple of years afterwards, but so you have to earn your stripes, and these quad builds. The one we're doing today is a 200-300 pound build, slightly more actually, 300-400 pound build. but you know, you can spend on a steel Alien quad, which I think I've got one around. Yeah, here it is, the Mr. Steel special. You know, that's a sort of $800. I'm not in the right place. There you go, quad.
Well,
So you can go
$800.
from, yeah, yeah, but it flies really well. You just don't want to crash it.
This is why I like my Cinewhoop. You know, this is why I love this baby. Yes, yeah. I've you know, David, you know, just say printed this, and I bought some LEDs in here. But I mean, this wasn't mega expensive. You know, and I don't know how much it will cost, but it's brilliant. I love it. But anyway,
yeah, no, it's great to fly. I love flying Cinewhoops as well. I think I've got a really small one which I might show you later.
Yeah.
Which carries one of these little Insta360 cameras on. It's 1080p, 60 frames, and it's just amazing. It really is great fun.
Totally agree with that, Shadow. If you ain't crashing, you ain't flying.
Yeah, I do too.
Right, let's go. Let's bring you up and a bit. You're upside down, David, again, because you.
Do you want me to flip to the camera?
Yeah, your camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if David switches his, let's put him in the right way up for a second because it's making me dizzy. So here we go. So I'm going to flip you around. I think that looks better that way. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's. I don't. Whatever people like, you know, we can always change, can't we?
I think that looks fine. That looks fine, right? So what we're going to do now is that I'm actually at the wrong camera. Am I the right? What camera am I on? Oh, it's all going wrong. Here we go. There we go. That camera. Here we go. So David's about to start to not build, but it's going to just let us know the parts for this quad. So if you've got any questions, please fire them. As I say, all the parts for this quad, if you want to get into it, is in the description. So I'll leave you to it. Thank you.
Well, no, Chris, we do need your help because I'm not good at doing unboxings like you are. I love watching your show for that. So
it's because I get excited.
yeah, and I get excited for you, right? So I've got to remember it's the right way up for me is the right way up for you. So that's a nice, easy way. So I've chosen to build the Stingy frame. It's Stingy V2 forged carbon frame. Unfortunately, the X-Hover, they're out of stock at the moment, so I do apologise. So I did put an alternative iFlight frame, which is a really similar shape of frame in the parts list that we've attached to the video. But the Stingy build is built for bashing, as he calls it. So Stinger Swarm, if you've not followed him on YouTube, he's a great chap to go and follow. And this is his V2 frame. So if we start to go through the parts, what's in the kit?
Yeah.
I have started putting some bits together because obviously I need some 3D printed parts, and I like to create a digital model, a digital twin of the quad, so that I can then start to build the parts around the frame.
Right. Shadow just said this is forged carbon. What does that mean, forged carbon?
This is the forged carbon. Yeah, so this is a really nice, and I'll get Deborah to talk in a minute about the downsides of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. There I am. So what they do is the V1 was all forged carbon, which is just chopped up carbon, squashed into a mould with some resin, and then squeezed. I've not got this YouTube game going, have I?
It's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
And although it doesn't look stunning in this light, in daylight it looks absolutely fabulous because you get this really irregular, lovely sort of camouflage pattern in the carbon itself.
I mean, I've always found, you know, like Formula One and bits and pieces, that, you know, they've got layers of this carbon and then they mould it and heat it. So this is not done in the same way. This is all like, you know, kind of like the green way of having of making carbon bits and pieces, or
you do it the same way, but instead of having long fibers, you have squished up bits. So you chop it up, and it's almost like little bits of cloth that you push together into a mold, and then with resin you press it down and you get a frame. But they found, and it is really sweet. They found that with the V1 frame, it broke on the bottom plate, which I'll show you the bottom plate in a minute, and you can see why. In fact, if I swap over now for the bottom plate, you can see that the bottom plate has got a lot of screw press nuts already inserted in the frame, and they're close to the edge. So you could see why under a crash that could be quite delicate. Yeah, so they came up with this idea. Yeah, too many weak points, even though they'd curved everything rather nicely, like a hornet. I think it's a hornet rather than a wasp. They found it wasn't very durable, so they had to withdraw it. And the beautiful thing now is that they worked out that they could put a laminate on the top and the bottom of the frame that allowed you to have the strength of the long fibers of the carbon fiber with a laminate over the top and over the bottom to give you the gorgeous forged carbon look.
Oh, okay.
Deborah, do you want to say anything? I didn't want to talk over you, so it's,
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you could just about make out the carbon
Yep.
fibre on the top surface of this part.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, those carbon woven rovings are aligned along the sort of axis of the autoclaved sheet. So when they cut the part out, when they cut the shape out, they've hopefully got everything sort of aligned, especially for the sort of the arms of the quad. One would hope that the main strength members are sort of running down the arm rather than say diagonally across, because that would make them weaker. And you can see like Dave's showing the forged carbon there. You can make out those sort of chunks of carbon. But I mean, that's purely aesthetic, really, because like Dave says, like inside of is fibres in bundles running, hopefully longitudinally down that part. So generally speaking, I mean, carbon's extremely stiff. That's where why we like to use it in these frames. Otherwise, the frames resonate and sort of you get all sorts of terrible problems with mind.
I mean, sorry, Deborah, while you're talking about the arms, I mean, as you know, I mean, a lot of frames, as I say, I mean, I do watch Joshua Bardwell quite a bit, and just before the motor, there's always like a weak point to, if there's a breakage, to stop you like ripping out cables. Is this the same in the forged carbon? Has it got a weak spot for crashing?
No, they've done a very good job, because you want to taper it at the point where it's likely to have the greatest load, and so it's a nice taper, as you can see, going into the motor itself. The arm is straight, but does again taper as it goes into the frame. So you probably are right. It's probably going to break in the middle somewhere now, rather than the edge or on the base plate, which is where they had the problems before. But Stingy does really bash his quads. If any of you watch him, he's in the bandos all the time, and so he's very confident that this new frame has passed his strength tests. And X-Hover are a great company when it comes to building frames.
Yeah.
They know how to make a great frame.
Awesome.
And I think one of your members was just saying, yes, in the sunlight it's outstanding.
Yeah,
so now, unfortunately, I built one of the arms just to I'll come back into the camera. I've done my own sort of skid blocks to go along the bottom, which we'll be giving us, all of the STL files for these in the next couple of weeks, and some soft mounts. Now, there's a whole school of thought on whether you need soft mounts on arms or not. We'll come into what motors are in a couple of minutes, but for me, it does really look nice.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, and I think we've got some nice cable management system parts as well, so they'll slide over the arms. We'll show that during the build, and will hold the cables in place as well, rather than using tape, which is the general way of doing things. You can slide these over the arms and
prop strikes.
And they're great. They're great for prop.
There's a little question, Deborah. I don't know if you wanted to answer Shadow Ops question.
Yeah, exactly. So the sharp corners, you don't generally get sharp corners on items which are going to get stressed highly, because that's a stressed concentration point. And if there's going to be a crack or something, it's probably going to propagate from a sharp corner. So generally speaking, everything is
or a screw hole.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Corner right in the centre of the four arms. So the reason they've done that is so that the four arms are completely locked together when you screw the frame together. So
this frame, doesn't. Some of them have an interlocking part in the middle, and with this particular one, they just lock very well together. They are very well machined edges as well. Almost high precision machined edges, so they fit exceptionally well together. So there is no give in it at all. It's a very good, robust frame.
I think Dave, isn't that right?
Yeah, it's an X frame. They're 120mm arms between the centre of the frame and the motor centre. So 240 obviously between motor centres diagonally, and it's a true X, as we would call it, rather than a dead cat, which is sort of changing the angle of the frames. These are, for all intents and purposes, you'll see that it forms a true X rather than a sort of stretch or squashed X, depending on what the application is. We'll talk a little bit more about different frame types another time. Really, today is more of an introduction into the bits. This has also got a little plate, really, again, forged carbon plate that sits on the bottom. And when we start assembling this, you'll see. But effectively, they've already put the press nuts into the frame for us, so we don't even have to apply those. Normally with Impulse RC, other frame manufacturers, you actually have to put the press nuts in. X-Hover have already done that. And effectively, the arms sit very nicely between a sandwich of the bottom plate, which you can see, which I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this, the arm itself and the base plate, and it does form a really strong structural frame for you to build the quad out of. Unfortunately, this frame was built to take directly a 20mm flight stack with the 2 screws holding the arms on. I'm going to be building a 30mm, so I'm going to have to use the outer screw for the arm as my outer, as the 30mm screw for the flight controller that I've chosen.
Okay, cool.
But I'll come on to that in a minute.
There's more. I mean, we'll be going a lot more into this in the build, so this is just basically a teaser for everyone to show what's going to be happening, which is brilliant. Yeah,
exactly. And the frame comes with some really nice camera parts. Now, the Stingy frame before had one of the failures of it was that the V1 was that the camera mount loosened over time. What they've done is made a really strong, pretty squashed frame, so you can see these parts are quite small to fit the camera in. We'll come on to the camera choice that I've made in a minute, and they've got a nice little TPU part that they provide that allows you to take most standard cameras and fit them between the 2 plates. And obviously that'll reduce vibration a little bit, but a little bit more complicated, but gives a lot of strength. Just quickly going through the rest of the bits. So we've got a total of four arms. They give us some nice little cushion pads as well. So here's our 4 arms, cushion pads. You just throw the rubbish on the floor, do you, Chris?
Yeah, I clear up always afterwards.
Okay, so that's what's happening here. Yeah. The other, just to finish off the frame bits, we've got a nice strap. Now, Deborah and I always use 2 straps to keep your battery in place. You definitely want to be using 2 straps. We'll go through where you place those and why you need to. But when we had one of the things when you crash is that the battery ejects itself and pulls itself out of the connector, and then you can't use all of the good electronics up until recently with Verifly and others that have come along with these beepers that have their own little battery in, which we'll talk about in a second. It just gives you that extra safety, and since I've started using 2 straps, I can't think of a time I've lost a battery on a crash. I mean, I may have damaged the battery, but I've not had it eject from the quad. You get some stickers, and I know you love stickers.
Yeah, I love stickers. Stickers, I love stickers. It's all about the stickers. It's not about the plane, the quad. It's just about the stickers.
No, and a really, really nice hardware pack. They've got 2 sizes of screws and these 20mm standoffs. So obviously you've got the frame screws, and then these longer screws that go through and join everything together. I love to take the opportunity to buy screws whenever I'm starting to make a model, actually. So I use a great British company called Accu. I might be able to turn that off now because that was only put on to give us. Sorry, just see that Accu, yeah. Accu, and they produce some of the most amazing screws that. Yeah, I'm just going to turn my camera light off. Sorry about that. Not doing very well here. That's coming off there.
That's all right. Okay. That's all right. Oh.
Yeah, so Accu, what's the great thing about when you're mounting a motor onto an arm, you really need to think very carefully about the length of the screw. So when I design all my parts, I make sure I've measured the frame, I've measured the TPU soft mounts and the skid blocks, and then I've got an excuse to go and order some beautiful screws from Accu. Now they come with, you can order them with Loctite on already, so they're already pre-dipped in Loctite.
That's cool.
You don't make a mess on your bench when you're putting them together. So it's a really good. So that's the sort of hardware pack from X-Hover. They give you lots more than you need to build the quad, which is always useful because if you're like me, you've got big fat fingers, and when you pick things up, you drop them and they go all over the bench, and then I lose a screw, and then it's a few days before I can get a new one to finish the
Always,
build.
I'm always dropping stuff in the hangar. I've got like the hanger gnome or something. You know, I'll turn me back, and before I know it, I've got 3 screws instead of 4, so I know exactly where you're going. But then I'll find them again. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. The problem is in the office here, my wife likes hoovering things up, so she says, "Yeah, I'll find them for you." She doesn't ever give them back to me, but no, she does if she.
Frightening.
A nice little battery pad. We are going to do something different with the battery pad,
Okay.
but that's for another episode. But there's a nice soft sticky battery pad that comes with the quad. Then if I suppose, what would you like to do first, Deborah? Do the camera, shall we? Does that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've gone for a run cam camera. Now the reason we used to, again, this is unfortunately got a smaller lens on. We'll be replacing the lens. The issue was that with the bigger cameras, they had bigger lenses. The sensors tended to be the same between the really small micro cameras and the rather larger cameras. So we sort of got the normal size that we refer to, the mini or nanos, and then the micros. And this is a sort of the sort of micro 20 mil sort of size camera that are putting in a frame. So normally, if you were placing that in a frame, you get a little bracket that comes with RunCam. Now, so why have we chosen RunCam? RunCam is has a really fast sensor in the camera itself. So if you're doing an analog build, now there's a huge debate to be had over analog versus digital, but if you're doing an analog build, then you cannot beat a RunCam Racer camera, and I've chosen the RunCam Racer 3 for this build.
I mean, it's just on there, David. I mean, in my ZOHD, my fixed wing FPV plane that I built, I put the Foxair camera in there. I mean, you think that on an analog system that RunCam is better than Foxair? If I said that right. What do you think, Deborah?
Because there's some really nice low light cameras for if you want to fly sort of late into the evening.
And this is on the RunCam, is it?
Yeah, well, no, Foxair, we generally fly the Foxair Predator, and I like, and particularly like the Foxair Predator. But if you're doing racing stuff or shooting gaps or doing bando stuff in low light, then probably the Racer, RunCam Racer series are a really good choice of camera, especially if you've got a low deck. So if I was doing something with a slightly higher deck, as I said, we've got a 20 mil high standoff, and if you look at the size of the standoffs versus the camera, if I can get it in there, you can see that the height of the camera and the standoff are virtually the same height. So you do need a small camera to fit it inside this frame. Normally, if I was building one of the steel quads, that's an analog one, I've got a really nice Predator camera in there. With a nice big lens. Now, the big lens is still the difference between these small cameras and the big cameras. So there's been a trend of recent months to put a bigger lens on these smaller cameras, and then you get very similar performance because it's the same sensor just with a proper lens on it in a very small form factor, which is ideal. But so this is the choice for this frame, and mainly for constrained size, and because probably we hope to fly some abandoned buildings. We've got a few we've found. I've got a little bit of a list for post-lockdown, which I'll share with people once I get that into it.
Well, you know, as I say, we'll. I mean, I'm hoping, as I say, you know, I forgot to bring the book in today. Book into the hangar that I'm reading. Sorry, Deborah.
If you wanted to flip digital in that frame, there's enough room, is there? Say for a Vista.
Yeah, I haven't got the Vista unit with me, Deborah. I'd have to go into the other room for that. We'll do that next time. We'll do a digital show for next time. I have got an air unit on one of the other ones. If you just bear with me, in fact, I have.
So this build we're doing then, Deborah, is going to be analog.
Yeah, well, this the one he's doing at the moment is an analog one. That's a Vista camera and antenna. So the air unit comes with a 20 by 20 hole pitch, and
just off 20, isn't it? It's slightly wider, isn't it? Because it doesn't fit in the standard frame. So there's 20.5 or something like that. I can't remember exactly because I know I've had to fiddle with funny parts.
Yeah, it's a bit bigger then.
Talking about a camera.
But that's there's two in the frame here, Chris. I've got one with a full air unit in, and really the main difference is that you can record footage on that. And then we've got the Vista, which is a bit like your Cine Whoop, if you like. This is in a sort of a frame idea that Tommy had for a beta FPV frame that he modded to become a Cine Whoop, and it's just outstanding. And again,
I'm not sure what. This is an analog in my Cinema, but I can't remember exactly what camera it is. I should do really, but I can't. It is a run cam, isn't it? It is a run cam actually. I'm not sure. It might be a Racer 3 in there actually. I'm not sure.
They're outstanding cameras. So we're going to move on, Chris, to sort of talk a little bit about motors.
We're about 25 minutes left, so
Yeah, no problems. So motors are a really emotive thing. So, you know, there's lots of really expensive motors out there. And there was a trend for a while to buy, you know, your favorite pilot's motor, your Mr. Steel Silks, or whatever it was, a Hype Train motor from whatever the pilot name was on Rotor Riot. I like the original Hype Train motors that Chad Nowak put together. Really amazing motor for Rotor Riot. However, of late, because we have so many crashes and we're running 6S systems, we tend to burn out motors if you're using turtle mode and they get stuck in a tree. You end up using the props to act as a saw to cut out the branches to allow your quad to fall back to the ground. So there's been some amazing advances. That one, you can arm upside down, and the second is this turtle mode that hi Blaz, that allows you to chop the branches off, and Deborah's particularly good at that, chopping the branches out of the trees. But I've and Deborah both suffered from a number of motor failures.
Yeah.
So what has been a really great, I mean, Emax, I started off with Emax motors, and then they became not really the motor to have, and we moved over to some really nice steel motors with EZ bearings and neodymium magnets and all of this good stuff. But Eco have come back, the new Emax motor range style called the Eco 2, and have come back with some amazing motors. Now they're £9 versus £25, so you can get two.
Sorry,
sorry,
Captain and Blaz, a big YouTube channel. It's fantastic, and he's excuse me, Deborah. It's called Nitro Porn, which anything about nitro engines is sexy. So yeah, so well, I've been looking forward to that anyway. So sorry, carry on.
No, very good. So it's a very nice looking motor. It performs very well. We've gone for a motor that's, I think it's 2306, I think, in terms of that it refers to the diameter and the height of the actual motor bell.
They are sexy motors though. They do look nice, don't they?
They are very sexy motors, and the KV that we've chosen is a KV that's suitable. So anywhere between 1700 kV and 1900 kV is really good for 6S. Between 19 and sort of mid 20s, 2200 is probably a 5S, and then 2300 and above is probably 4S. I have moved over wholly to 6S for the vast majority of my quads, because it just gives me that extra battery life and that consistency throughout the flight time and less current drawn. But on the other hand, there are some downsides. They're more expensive. They can blow up ESCs if you don't put capacitors on, etc. But these are a really nice motor, a budget motor, but an exceptionally good motor. And we have obviously 4 of those. Then Deborah, probably get you to talk about VeryFly. I'm just a recent convert to the VeryFly. I'll take it out of the bag. So the VeryFly.
I do.
Yeah.
You need to have something to help you. And I really like that little unit. It's got a lovely loud beeper on it. It's totally independent, as Dave was describing. It's got a little battery, a 1S battery on the bottom, and then it's a bright LED as well. So basically, you wire that into your flight stack. It charges up when you've got your LiPo battery attached to the quad, and within about a minute, it's pretty much charged the battery up. And then if you do end up with a crash, so maybe you ran your battery flat, maybe you hit something and you've ejected your main battery pack, that little beeper will go off after sort of 30 seconds of being disconnected from the main flight.
How long does that last, Deborah, do you think?
So I think it will go on for hours and hours, and I believe
It's a few
there's
hours,
light.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a light sensor on there as well. So when it gets dark, I think the beeper actually switches off and it just flashes the light.
Awesome.
So hopefully you'll
30
be able
hours, Deborah, on the distractions.
Yeah, exactly. So as I say, it's over a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
They
And normally
do
when
it.
you lose a quad in at one night, you're going back the next day, you're resigned to losing it, and you lose the battery for sure, don't you, Deborah? So being able to find it that night is a huge improvement on where we were a few years ago.
Light on there is really handy because you can fly another quad over, and the cameras on these quads are really quite sensitive to low light situations. So the little beacon actually is quite easy to see. Quite often you can see it in the grass with another quad, whereas if you're wandering about aimlessly looking for it, unless you can hear the beeper, you don't always see the flashing light.
That's really good for when you guys fly anyway, because you're always sort of like at sunset, aren't you, really? By the time you finish flying, it's quite almost dark. So
an hour.
It is dark. You take the goggles off and you realise it's pitch black,
it's
and
like,
you go,
oh, it's night time, I better
go
go.
now.
That's it.
But
okay, cool. What else have we got in there?
So in the box, then the next most important thing to talk about is the flight stack itself.
The Mamba.
I've chosen a Mamba.
I like it.
I have to say, yeah, I do. I love them. Diatone for me have been an exceptional company all the way through. Anyway, again, lots of stickers in here, Chris, which is the most important thing.
It's all about the stickers. I like stickers.
It absolutely is. Now, about a year or so ago, we were getting people arguing about you don't need an F7 processor on a flight stack. Right. Now, the amazing thing with putting an F7 processor on there is that you can then start to do things like bidirectional D-shot. Now, these are words that we'll come back to, but basically this is a digital protocol for your motors, and what we've been using up until recently is an analog protocol, a pulse width modulation to our motors. What this enables us to do now is to tell the motor through the ESC exactly what speed we want it to go, and then have a feedback loop that comes back and says, yes, I'm now at that speed. So it's a much better control system, but you need a lot of oomph to do that. And sorry, Deborah, you go.
That
sorry,
works on the F4.
It does, but normally F4s are normally limited to around D-shot 300, and the higher D-shot with the bidirectional D-shot, you really need an F7. So that's why I've chosen an F7. The beauty of them now is that they're nearly the same price. So I think this whole stack was around £80. This was a Christmas present from my son, which was really nice. Cool. And it has a really nice ESC on the bottom. So we've got a 4-in-1 electronic speed controller on the bottom of this. So it comes as a complete stack. It also has a really cool app, because it's got a little Bluetooth antenna on there. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, you can.
But that allows you then to connect to an app called SpeedyBee, and it allows you then to, I wouldn't necessarily program it with that, but if you programmed it on Betaflight and then you're at the field, it enables you to make changes, which is really useful if you've set your quad up for doing a GPS return to home and for whatever reason the satellites are not there on that evening. And the other nice feature on this one is that it has a USB-C connector. So it's one of my first controllers with a USB-C. Unlike, I was going to say analog, because the digital ones I get from, all the digital VTXs I get from DJI already have USB-C. But the first flight controller for me with a USB-C on it. So it is rather nice.
Just a second, do you want to answer Grumpy, Deborah?
Okay.
The Grumpy's one, which says Mamba not supported in INAV.
No, I don't really know very much about INAV, to be perfectly honest with you. I've never tried it. Okay. But I'm assuming that it only runs on certain flight stacks that perhaps have certain functions or facilities.
We should probably get back to Grumpy on that.
Isn't it, Dave? Is it barometer and magnetometer?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a barometer and a magnetometer, but you can have the magnetometer and GPS together. The only downside there is you've got to run that over I²C for the magnetometer.
This Mamba in here, this uses INAV, this Mamba.
Yeah, I haven't checked, and I haven't programmed this one, so I don't know. I will test it though by the time we come back and do the programming show of this, I'll make sure I've tested it on iNav as well.
Yeah, so there you
So
go,
I don't know
Grumpy. I mean, pop back in a couple of weeks and we'll be able to tell you.
Yeah. We get some nice long screws for the board. Now, I know that this particular flight stack is going to need around 27mm screws. I didn't bring my micrometer in here, I normally do, but hopefully they're the nice pack of screws and gummies that come with it. We've also got our 6S capacitor as well, which is a nice Panasonic ESR capacitor. I get a nice XT60 plug with it too, which is really nice, and some nice silicon cable.
Cables, yeah.
I'm probably going to probably swap that out for a slightly thinner cable. I'm not. If I was running long lengths of cable, then I do go for a thinner SWG. But I'm probably going to go. Probably to 14 to 16, really, somewhere like that, just so I've got a little bit more flexibility. It's only a short length. The resistance won't make any difference over that gap.
Awesome.
And then lots of gummies to go with it as well. Okay. And a nice little extended lead. Now this extended lead from the one it's got there that joins the two stacks together allows you to twist the top stack round if you're going to mount it with a strange motor rotation. So sometimes I like to have the wires coming out the side of the quad, like we've done on the, I'll show you on the steel quad. So on the steel quad, you can see that the motor wires come in and go directly out the side. Other times, with the Tommy build, for example, we had the wires at either side of those, so the motor wires go inboard. But that necessitates us to turn the board through 90 degrees. Now, it may be that you can then keep your flight controller facing the correct way for the gyro and the standard setup by just turning it through 90 degrees, and in which case you need this slightly longer cable to make that connection.
I mean, just as what Grumpy's saying as well, yeah. Sorry, Deborah.
I was say some ESCs have like a protruding piece of circuit board where you solder on the main power cables. So, you know, if you've got a quad where you haven't got enough room between the stack and say a digital air unit or something, you might end up having to turn the ESC through 90 degrees just to give you. Yeah, you can see it on that one a little bit. It sticks out.
There are many different ways to. I was going to say to skin something then, but I won't. I was going to say a cat, but this is really wrong. But there are many ways to solve a problem, and I guess I like the motor wires out the side of quads. Some people like them inside the quad to protect them, you know. And as there's other build considerations about where you then put the motor wires, as Deborah was saying. So the great thing is that there is no one way to do these things. There's many ways, and it allows flexibility, which is great.
I'm just a bit concerned about the time. So, I mean, just what Grumpy's saying is that we've got a GPS for this, because he's saying iNav has so much more GPS modes. Is this?
It does, but if you're doing stuff where you want the quad to be autonomously flying, then iNav is a really great option. If you're somebody who likes to do freestyle, which is very much what I'm about here, and this quad is very much about being a freestyle quad, which means that, you know, you're not using it in autonomous mode. So the features and filters around we'll talk about filters later on, but the way to make the quad fly really smoothly is to make sure it's well set up with good props, good motors, a very rigid frame, and then that stops the vibration for the GoPro camera, etc. And we want to get as smooth as possible flight characteristics out of our quads, but whilst manually flying them. Now, we like the GPS on for two reasons, I would say. I'm sure Deborah has got her own two reasons, but mine are, first of all, it then gives me positional information that I can see in the goggles. So if the quad goes down, I've got the last GPS location, which can be useful. And the other one is this new feature, return to home. And the return to home, we can have it on a switch. Sometimes that's annoying because you have to have 14 satellites up or whatever the minimum number you've set, somewhere between 8 and 14 is advised. So yes, for us, we are very much about providing us with telemetry rather than of the position, the speed, the height, because again, we want to keep under that 120 meters as well. This helps us with that information for our OSDs, rather than having it in an autonomous mode. Deborah, did you want to add anything to that story before?
Well, I was going to say that having GPS on the quad means that if you're flying and you hit something and crash. I mean, I've dropped the quad into the long grass, like a couple of fields over, and we found it because I can look in the goggles and see the actual latitude and longitude on the goggles, and then we've actually walked there, haven't we, and to find it in the field. So it's a really handy thing to have on a freestyle quad, and it's used an awful lot for long range quads where you're okay, so we don't generally fly out of line of sight, but in certain countries, into the mountains, which would be great here if we had any. But yeah, and so it's handy then to be able to get the quad to come home on its own if you have a sort of fail-safe situation.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
And I just wanted to be fair to all of the other flight control software out there. You know, I know iNav is a great software, and I know people love flying it freestyle. For me, Betaflight has more features that I can use on that fork of the code. I tend to fly a lot of KISS as well. So there's EMU flight, there was originally clean flight and base flight and multi-wee before that. So all of them come from this, you know, sort of tree that started off with multi-wee and then through base flight, then branched to clean flight, and then from clean flight to iNav and to Betaflight. So they have the same heritage. It's just that I think the Betaflight is more focused on freestyle pilots, whereas the iNav is focused on autonomous flight and GPS. But, you know, again, that's my opinion. There are loads of others' opinions.
That's good.
You know, there's only a limited amount of storage space on the flight controller's memory. So if you want to have loads of sort of navigational features, you probably have to cut back on some of the features that might be more appealing to the freestyle pilot. But it's nice that you can actually load that firmware onto pretty much the same hardware.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. It's really good. We should check to see if this one works on iNav, and I'll go through what the same setup would be in iNav. So the VTX choice then. Oh, sorry, Chris, go.
No. I was just going to interrupt you as I do. I was just thinking, actually, I think I'm lying to you. Actually, I think the fixed wing that I've got is the iNav because it's got the F405 board. The iNav board, and actually I was doing the quad on Betaflight because I've just had a look down here and I've got the BL Heli and Betaflight configurator and the iNav configurator, so I must have been doing that in Betaflight. It's okay.
It's pretty good. But as I say, I don't hate on any of them. I love them all, and it's great there's such a vibrant community of software developers that are happy to put their time into making our hobby a good one. And I do donate every month to the Betaflight devs for that reason.
It's the same with iNav devs as well. It's all they're not paid.
Exactly. No, and you should support them. And whichever flight controller software you fly, we really should be supporting those great people that help. So this is a really nice analog. I am sorry to say, Deborah. I'll let Deborah talk next time about digital and all the great. But we do love digital too. But this is a lovely analog VTX. It's great with temperature management. It allows a wide range of powers. In the UK, we're allowed to use 25 milliwatts, maximum power of 25 milliwatts. If you have an amateur radio license, which we're just investigating fully at the moment, it looks like you can transmit a lot more. We're just trying to work that through with Ofcom on certain channels. So we're looking forward to that. But legally, this is a great one for racing. It has a little RFID tab you can see here where you can have a digital wand, and you can just program it with the right channel. So you can have it in pit mode, which means it only transmits in a sort of 2-meter blob around you. And when you go onto the start line with your quad, you can literally just get them tapped with the wand onto the channel that you need to be on, and it selects the channel and the power that they want you on in race control, which could be less than 25 milliwatts. I like it because it's really robust. It supports smart audio, which means your flight controller and all the goodness in Betaflight and these other softwares can be used to program it so that you can do power down when you're not armed. So there's a lot of really nice little features that you can take advantage of from Betaflight. Changing the channels through your goggles and the Betaflight interface is also another one, or through Lura scripts on your radio as well. But it's a really nice compact transmitter. It's robust. It lasts a long time. And what I mean about lasting a long time is that your transmitter is obviously operating in a very hostile environment. Your cables get worn, your antennas get bashed, and that can cause power to be reflected back into them and cause them to burn out quickly. But this particular one has great temperature control, and it's very well made, so it tends to look after itself very well and take a lot of abuse. So that's really good.
Yeah,
So
you told me about that before. That's in my HD. Sorry, Deborah.
I was going to say, in terms of the functions that VTX has, most of the, well, I'd say probably all of the other ones, not so much about the Chinese ones maybe, but certainly things like TBS, for instance, would have all of the same functionality when it comes to sort of things like bit mode, changing frequency over through the goggles, and all that kind of good stuff. I do get what you're saying about the reliability though, David. It's quite frustrating.
So I mean, most of them support smart audio, don't they? And that's the same way I would use that with whether it was a TBS or not. Yeah, so it's the Betaflight bits I like. I appreciate. Again, it's an opinion, isn't it? Right? And I know that this works. I know that this is reliable. The TBS stuff I love seems to be a little bit more fragile in the field, doesn't it? But you are right. There's some great choices out there, including the Chinese choices as well. They work well as well.
Just I'm not 100% sure whether they all have exactly the same level of functionality. For instance, I've got a Chinese VTX, which is amazing. It does quite actually, it can be a high-powered device if you need to be a bit careful not to inadvertently run it at those higher powers. But it's all operated by push buttons on the side, which is a bit annoying if you need to change frequency.
Yeah, and frequency on analog is a really important thing. And the great thing about this one is it's got a button on the side, like most of the TBS ones have too. It's also got RFID, and it also works on smart audio. So your flight controller can control it. You can control it manually through the button when you power it up. And it's getting something that works for you and provides you with the quality, but also means that, if you do need to change channel, you can do that quickly and effectively. And at the field, we've pre-allocated a set of channels that we all use as our main channel. If somebody new turns up at the field and wants to fly, of course, we have to work out how to change channels and powers. And the more of the people that are there, the worse the interference becomes. It's obvious, really, because it's just a adding up of all the power. And you can find that, you can be somebody flying at distance, somebody really close powers up, and you can knock them out of the sky because they can't see where they're...
I have to interrupt you then, because we're on the last few minutes there.
Yes.
As I say,
I'm done.
When we're building, we can go a bit more into depth of bits and pieces. But I mean, this is some lovely equipment that you're putting together, David. Yeah,
and then just the final two bits, antennas, TBS antennas I've chosen, we'll talk about that next time. And I've chosen LEDs. One of the new things on the A2 CFC is that you have to be able to see the quad to be able to class it as line of sight flying. So if you can put LEDs on your quad, you can improve the chances of you being able to see it at distance. And that's about it. We've got a load of TPU parts, but we'll talk about those next time, Chris.
Okay, well, if you just switch your cameras for us, and we'll have just a final closing, with me being Mr. Bouncy Ball. Bang, 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 bang. I'll have to. There you go. Hey, there you go. So listen. I just want to, applause for that. Well done. Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, David's not really used to showing it to everybody. Sounds so wrong, actually. He's not a flasher, and obviously Deborah's a great co-pilot, as per se, today, which is fantastic. So I mean, so basically from sort of bi-weekly in a couple of weeks, we can actually start building this. And as I say, the list that you gave me that we put in the description, that people can go and buy everything that you've shown us today.
Yes, except for the frame, Chris. The frame that I've added in there, because the X-Hover frame, unfortunately, is out of stock on the X-Hover website. We might find it on other sites, but so the iFlight replacement is a very similar frame, and the same equipment would work very well on that too.
Okay, but I mean, are you 3D printing the whole frame, or just the add-ons that people can?
No, just the add-ons. Okay. I draw the whole frame because, and I'll show that next time, but I draw the whole frame because it then allows you to visualize the parts. You can just draw them and print them.
Taz FPV. I've been trying to get Taz on a live show since I've started, and he doesn't like my fixed wings, but he likes quads. He loves quads. Well, Taz, I mean, it's, as I say, you'll have to sort of jump back a bit after the show's finished. I mean, today we're just doing an hour-long show. Basically, it's my fault. I've got other engagements to do. But you know, sort of the next bi-weekly, week after next, what you like to call it, we can go on as long as David and Deborah are here for. So, but I mean, that's exciting. I mean, I think I might try and get these bits. So I think, I mean, the great thing about this live show is that, you know, people can go back to it, and that's what I like. You know, I mean, the reason I started all this YouTube stuff in the first place is because I looked for stuff and I couldn't find it. You know, sort of, how do I do this and how do I do that? And you know, it's crazy. So I mean, if someone to build sort of like a what do you call it? Not a race quad. What did you call it? A free flight. Is it free flight?
Freestyle.
Freestyle. Sorry. So, I'm noob.
Yeah.
So freestyle. You know,
not good enough to be racing pilots.
I love Wing Fist stuff, but more quads. Yes, Taz. Yeah. Well, you're gonna love this anyway. Unfortunately, Taz is late in the house, but that's okay. You can go back and watch it. But as I say, you know, so
he's here.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's a lovely bloke. So, so as I say, sort of like a week after next, we're actually going to start building it. I mean, do you think it will be built next week and ready for all the fun stuff in Betaflight, or?
No, I suggest next time around we do the build, maybe in 2 parts, and then the setup would be the third bit. I'll make sure all the TPU parts are on Thingiverse and with during the week for you, so you can put them out with the next advert for the next one.
Okay, that's brilliant. I mean, with also, I mean, are you able to once you've done the Betaflight setup, are you able to sort of export the file so we can put it on our forums?
Absolutely.
People can
do a CLI, CLI
Fantastic.
dump of the settings, and I'll show you it flying, and we'll just double check that the settings we put in.
Now that's going to be really exciting. We're going to live Friday. Right? There you go. Look. See, William, so look, you sold William. William, see, says, I think I might look into building a quad now. Do it. I mean, you know, it's, you know, I mean, okay, I haven't had a lot of fun with this in the garden, but I wasn't playing in the garden, honest. But
you are going to fly this year. You are going to fly this year.
This year's the maiden. Well, we was meant to be maiden in right now, but obviously the COVID had different side of things, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, David is going to drag my ass to the field, and we're going to fly and see me fly. I need to crash. You're going to see me fly, and we're going to have some fun. So, I mean, it's these two people here, Deborah and David, that are the Quadaholics, only because of their passion for quads that they deserve to be heard by everybody. I mean, it's okay. I haven't got like 1 billion subscribers. So late to the party. That's okay. I mean, you are late, look, because I finished my beer. I mean, you know, there's no more beers, Taz. Sorry, mate. I did try. I saved you one, but I got thirsty. Sorry, buddy. Sorry about that one.
I only had water, Chris.
Oh, did you? God, what kind of party is this? I thought, like, you know,
oh, no.
you know, I thought, you know, quads were like this, and you know, I this is a chain, you know. No, is that no?
I think it's good. It's a good look for you, Chris. Anyway.
Do you think so? You think so?
Yeah, I think you can carry it off.
Yeah, I'll carry that off. It's like the old, if anyone remembers the Beastie Boys. Choking to myself there. The Beastie Boys, yeah. So I think I'll be the Beastie Boy, but you know, instead of a big medallion, I'll have the quad. So, but listen, it's, as I say,
I like that. Gold-plated quad round your neck. It could be quite good look, couldn't it?
Gold-plated. What do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe I could print one in sort of some gold-looking stuff. We'll see. You never know what happens on Dad's Aussie Hangout. Crazy stuff happens on Daisy. Anyway, listen.
It does.
Listen, David and Deborah, listen, and everyone that's joined today, I would have joined. Quad part. What's this teetotal business? I don't want to fly quads now. Okay, I am selling this quad. Teetotal? Behave yourself. Stop it. Everyone has a little tipple now and then. So even Taz now. I know Taz has got his own channel, and he flies. And look, a pint of Jack Daniels and Coke. Oh, what? You're being rude. You're swearing to me. What's this about the Coke? It's Jack Daniels straight. Stop it with that. Next minute you'll be saying you got ice cubes. Right. Now, I'd love to chat on, but I've to say I've got another thing to do in a little while. Thank you, David. Thank you, Deborah. Let's give you some more claps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Chris, for letting us come in.
So, as I say, stick around because we'll have a little chat after everyone's calmed down. Calm down at the back there. Thank you. Yes, yes. There's always one. There's always one. So stick around. But anyway, thanks to everyone popping by. As I say, if I did miss your name, I do apologise. But I got most of you, I think. But join us again. Well, join the Friday feeling next Friday, of course. But in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be back in here with the Quadaholics, with David and Deborah, and of course myself, Chris, at Dad's Aussie Hanger. See you now. Ta-ra, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.